Your alarm doesn't go off at 4:47 a.m. You wake up before it, the way you have for 11 years, because your body stopped trusting the alarm to do its job a long time ago. You're already reaching for your phone before your eyes fully open, and there it is, 14 unread messages that came in overnight. Not emergencies, most of them, just the ordinary weight of running things while the rest of the world was asleep. A payroll question from the print shop, a supplier in Ohio confirming a delivery window for the vending machine business, a text from your daughter, sent at 11:40 p.m. that just says, "Night, Dad," which you'll answer in 9 hours, because right now at 4:48 in the morning, answering it isn't the priority. Running the math is.
You are Marcus Delane. You are 47 years old. You own, in full or in part, 10 separate businesses. And last year, those businesses generated just under $9.4 million in combined revenue. You will sleep, on a good night, 5 hours. On most nights, less. Nobody who meets you at your daughter's soccer games would guess any of this. To them, you're just the dad who's always a little distracted, always glancing at his phone, always the first to leave. Here's the part almost nobody understands about a life like this. It didn't start with a plan. It started with a laundromat. You were 26. You'd just been laid off from a regional sales job, and you had $14,000 in savings and a strong suspicion that working for someone else was never going to get you where you wanted to go. A laundromat in a strip mall came up for sale. The owner was retiring, the machines were old but functional, and the price, $38,000, was low enough that you could scrape together a down payment and finance the rest through a small local bank willing to take a chance on you. It worked. Not spectacularly, just steadily. Enough that 18 months later, you bought a second one.
By 31, you owned 4 laundromats. By 34, you'd added a commercial vending machine route that served office buildings downtown, bought for $61,000 from a man who was tired of driving 2 hours a day to restock snack machines. By 37, a small print shop that did business cards and signage for local companies, purchased because the previous owner died and his widow just wanted it gone. By 40, a self-storage facility with 240 units. By 43, a stake in a regional pest control franchise, a car detailing operation, a small commercial janitorial company, and a minority position in a friend's e-commerce brand selling kitchen gadgets. One you almost never mention because explaining the margins on silicone spatulas tends to kill a conversation faster than it starts. 10 businesses. One person holding the entire structure in his head. The architecture underneath it isn't glamorous. There's a holding company formed on your accountant's advice back when you had 4 businesses, and we're starting to realize a lawsuit against one could sink all of them. Under the holding company sit 10 separate LLCs, each one legally walled off from the others, the same way the first 2 laundromats were separated years before anyone called it a structure. If the pest control franchise gets hit with a liability claim, it can't touch the storage facility or the print shop. That's not luck. That's $400 an hour paid to a business attorney named Priya twice a year to make sure the walls stay standing. What changes when you go from 2 businesses to 10 isn't the money. It's the load. You learned this the hard way with the janitorial company, business number 7. You tried running it the way you ran the first laundromat, checking in personally, knowing every client contract by name, reviewing every invoice yourself. It nearly broke you. There are only so many hours in a day, and a person who insists on being the single point of failure for 10 operations isn't building an empire. He's building a slow-motion collapse with better spreadsheets. So somewhere around business number 8, you stopped trying to operate everything and started managing people who operate things. Each business has a manager or a site lead. Each one reports up through a separate channel. A weekly text, a monthly call, a quarterly number sent to your accountant. None of those channels cross. The guy running the vending route has never met the woman managing the storage facility. The print shop's lead designer doesn't know the pest control franchise exists, has no reason to ask. You are the only wire that runs through every room. Your accountant, a methodical man named Holloway, who's worked with you for 9 years, sees every dollar that moves through the holding company. He's never once asked what your combined net worth actually is, because that isn't the piece of the picture he was hired to see. Your bookkeeper, a woman named Denise who works remotely from 3 states away, reconciles 10 sets of books every month and genuinely believes she has 10 separate small business clients. In a sense, structurally, she does. 2 people, 10 businesses. Nobody holds the whole picture except you, and that isn't an accident. The fewer people who can see the total, the fewer people who can ever hand the total to somebody else, whether through carelessness or something worse. Here's what doesn't make it into anyone's highlight reel. Running it this way is exhausting in a quiet, cumulative way that doesn't look like exhaustion from the outside. There's rarely a single dramatic crisis. There's just the permanent weight of being the only node the whole network runs through, with no real vacation from it. Because vacations don't stop a walk-in cooler from failing at the janitorial company's biggest client site, or a storage facility flooding during a freak storm while you're 1,400 miles away.
You took one real vacation in the last 3 years. 6 days at a lake house with your wife Aaliyah and your daughter. By day 2, you'd fielded 7 calls, approved an emergency repair on a commercial dryer, and talked a vending route driver through a dispute with a building manager over missed deliveries. Aaliyah watched you do all of it from a dock chair 20 feet away and didn't say much, because she's watched you do it for years and stopped expecting the version of the trip where you actually disappear. Aaliyah is one of exactly 3 people on Earth who knows the real number. Not Holloway, who sees the cash flow but not the sum. Not Denise, who sees 10 small businesses and nothing more. Not a single manager who reports to you monthly and thinks of you as, at most, a busy investor. Aaliyah knows because she has to. Priya, your attorney, knows because the trust structure requires it. And that's it. 3 people. Roughly $6.2 million in net equity across 10 businesses and a decade and a half of work. And almost nobody in your daily life has any real sense of the number.
Your own father thinks you do maintenance and property stuff. That's not exactly a lie. It's just not the whole shape of it. And it's a sentence he said once, years ago, that you've quietly never bothered to correct. 18 months ago, your father's truck broke down for the 3rd time in a year. A transmission problem that would cost more to fix than the truck was worth. He mentioned it once, offhand, at Sunday dinner, and said he'd probably just keep patching it because a replacement wasn't in the budget right now. You called a used car dealer who happens to service 3 of your commercial vehicles, had them find him a good deal on a 2-year-old truck, and quietly covered the $6,400 difference between what your father could pay and what the truck actually cost, routed through the holding company as a vehicle allowance, tied to nothing in particular. Your father thinks he got lucky with a dealer having a slow month. He tells people about it. Nice guy. Gave him a break. He has no idea his son owns pieces of 3 companies that Dealer Services structured the whole thing specifically for him and closed the loop quietly enough that even the dealership's owner doesn't fully understand why you asked for it done that way. This is where the real cost of the whole thing lives, not in the LLC filing fees or Priya's retainer. In moments like standing in your father's driveway, watching him show off his lucky find to a neighbor, completely unaware that the sun standing 6 feet away is the reason it exists at all. There's a specific kind of loneliness in being thanked for nothing, so the thing you actually did can stay invisible. You've felt it enough times now that it stopped feeling sharp and started feeling like a low, permanent hum underneath everything else.
The real test came 14 months ago, and it didn't come from a lawsuit or a bad quarter. It came from your own body. A routine physical turned up blood pressure numbers your doctor didn't like, and when she asked how much sleep you were actually getting, the honest answer was 5 hours most nights, because part of your brain has apparently decided it needs to stay half online at all times in case the storage facility's alarm system trips or a manager needs a decision by morning. You started therapy after that, not dramatically, just quietly, on Tuesdays at 7 a.m. before anyone else is awake. Your therapist spent the first several sessions just mapping out what your actual week looks like. And then she said something that has stuck with you since. You've built a structure that protects your money from almost anyone who could threaten it. I'm curious who's protecting you.
Nobody, really, is the honest answer. That's not a complaint. It's closer to a trade you made a long time ago without fully realizing you were making it. Every layer that keeps the businesses safe from lawsuits, keeps your father from ever having to know he's dependent on you, keeps the whole structure standing, also keeps you as the single load-bearing wall in a 10-room house where nobody else can see the whole roof.
So 4 months ago, you started something that feels more radical than any LLC filing ever did. You started writing what Priya calls, dryly, the operations memo, a plain language explanation of all 10 businesses, how they connect, what each one needs to survive if you're not the one running it anymore. Sealed, held by her firm, meant to be opened only if you can't hold the wire together yourself. It is, in its own way, the single most exposed document you've ever created, a complete map of something that took 21 years to build. You still haven't told your father the real number. You still haven't told your daughter, though you've started letting her see slightly more than you used to. Not the number, never the number yet, just enough that she stopped assuming the truck was luck. Tomorrow, the storage facility needs a new security gate motor, $3,100, approved before breakfast, forgotten by lunch. The pest control franchise is renegotiating a supplier contract Priya is already reviewing before you finished your coffee. 10 businesses, 1 wire, 3 people who know the real shape of it, and a father across town driving a truck he thinks he got lucky on, still telling the story at every family dinner, still having no idea the quiet, exhausted man passing him the mashed potatoes built the whole thing so he'd never have to ask for help.
If this story hit you somewhere real, hit like and subscribe. We tell these stories every week, the quiet ones about money, family, and the weight nobody sees. Drop a comment. Would you tell your family the real number, or keep carrying it alone like Marcus does? See you in the next one.